December in Denver, and it was a good first half for the Broncos, who lead New England. Patriots playing for the wild card, 14-10. Here's the scoring. The longest run of the year for John Stevens. Started it off for the Patriots as he rumbled 23 yards to give the Pats a 7-0 lead. It was the first touchdown scored by New England on grass in 10 quarters this year. But back came Denver. John Elway using his backs. Dorsett had a long run, and then Winder capped the drive with a 1-yard plunge to make it 7-all. And then it was Elway again. This time Dorsett behind a crushing block by Winder to give the Broncos a 14-7 lead. And why is it that Denver's suddenly running the football so well?
Well, they want to make me look bad, Dick. I said all they had was Elway back there, and they've come out and added some dimension. And I've got to say this, that they're responding emotionally to this last game, and as they had to do, and they got off to a fast start as they had to do. And now the important thing is to sustain through the second half of this ball game against a team that New England has not played as well as we expected them to play so far.
Now, we have it from reliable authorities that Joe Collier and his defensive assistants will be released after this game. So Denver will do a house cleaning on that side of the football. And I've got to think that in some ways that Collier and Reeves have used that emotionally to spark this team, because they like Collier. The players like this man.
He has been a very popular coach with them, and his 20 years here in Denver have made him the kind of figure that is, well, it's almost heretic, kind of a heretical. How would we say that, Dick? It's a horrible thought for a lot of folks to see a Denver team without a Joe Collier. And yet Reeves, who inherited Collier, would like to see a system and a coach that is more compatible with his beliefs on the defensive side of the line of scrimmage. And there's no question in my mind that although Collier will end up being a scapegoat to some degree, that there are changes that must be made, and perhaps this is the best way to go about doing it.
And maybe the best thing for Collier himself. This second half kickoff, which will be received by New England, is sponsored by Budweiser, the king of beers. Rich Carlos tees it up. Sammy Martin and Elgin Davis are deep for the New England Patriots, who get the ball first to start the second half, trailing 14-10. A win for New England, and they are the wild card. A loss, and it will take some doing for them to get into the playoffs. Brilliant, high, spinning kickoff that will be taken for the touchback. Gives us a chance to look at the official statistics in the first half.
Maybe we won't. Yes, we will. There they are. The one thing that is not on there that it's important to note is that Denver is 5 of 7 in third down situations against the defense that leads the league in that category. The stats pretty even as you look down. 2 turnovers by the Broncos, a critical stat there. And of course, one of them, they were very fortunate right at the end of the half, but that did not cost them 3 points.
Stevens with 65 yards and Dorsett with 57, the leading rushers. And Stevens gets his number called to open the second half and is out to the 26-yard line, a gain of 6 more. In fact, Stevens, with his receiving, had a total of 90 yards of the Patriot offense in the first half. Oh, he is a good-looking back, isn't he? Receivers, Morgan 4 catches for 44, and Stevens 2 for 25. Mark Jackson halfway there to make it 4 consecutive weeks for 100 yards receiving. No one's ever done that in Denver history. Eason handing off to Stevens, tripped up for a loss. Dennis Smith and Kevin Guidry. No, it's with Carl Mecklenburg in there to assist, but it's Smith who has played a big game defensively for Denver, perhaps playing for his coach Collier.
Dick, one of the things that you look at Mecklenburg and you see the number of seasons, the number of games he missed. He also played 2 games with that hand in such a state that he ended up breaking one of the pins loose in that hand. And that, you look at that cast, he's got a dowel inside that cast. His hand is wrapped around the dowel, and then there are screws on both sides to keep the cast from twisting.
Talked about playing with one arm tied behind your back. Eason under pressure, and almost a ball up for grabs as Morgan has it knocked away by Harden and Braxton. And the Denver defense answers the call again. Mecklenburg and Rulon Jones, the pass rushers, applying heat on Eason. Well, that fumble at the end of the half, and Denver denying New England any points may have been an emotional spark for the Broncos.
And then to come right out and 3 and out on defense gives your opportunity excellent field position, or should give them excellent field position, and Matteo maybe can get them some even better field position with a return here.
Jeff Beagles. It's a high wobbly boot. Matteo, no fair catch. He gambled, and no one hit him immediately at the 34-yard line. The flag is down at the line of scrimmage. Vincent Brown, a rookie, made the tackle. 40-yard punt. Ineligible man downfield.
I think they'll ask him to kick that one again. That was a long kick.
Apparently not. Reeves sends the offense on.
That's interesting.
Well, it's a
Ineligible receiver. The offense, number 59, downfield. Penalty is declined. 1st and 10, Denver.
So Denver dominating the series, but Denver also having the advantage of hosting the series. It just worked out that way with a computer.
In fact, New England, in part of their press release, described their stadium. They said a lot of your players have never seen Sullivan Field at Foxborough.
So from the 35, Elway comes out throwing. And it's Mobley incomplete. He was open at the New England 48. It's starting to say emotionally how tough it is for a team that's been enjoying the success of a Super Bowl appearance, Denver, and then to go 8-8, and yet know that if they should win and go 8-8, if they go 8-8, they'll tie for first place in the AFC West, maybe. And at that, they can look at a couple of plays this season and they could be in the playoffs again, and yet you would think it would have been total disaster striking Denver.
Well, the one game that Dan Reeves will still have nightmares about 10 years from now is that loss to the LA Raiders here when they were ahead 24-0 at the half.
Ooh, Elway having trouble as he pulled back. Now throws to Jackson. Not much there as he's tackled immediately at the 40. Andre Tippett and company. 5 yards for Jackson.
One thing that this New England defense has not done well during the year is to rush the quarterback. They've only had 28 sacks on the year. That's well below the NFL average. And Elway has had a great deal of time to throw the football today. And boy, you just don't want to give a quarterback that amount of time to sit back there and peruse his receivers, because it's very difficult to cover those folks when they're running downfield in the open.
3rd down and 6, 4 wide receivers. James bluffing the safety blitz, then the throw underneath to Matteo, breaks one tackle, and then fumbles the ball. We'll see if, no, the whistle had blown it dead. Claiborne was the man who made the tackle. A little extra activity after the fumble. Keith Cart, 72 Denver. Brent Williams, 96 New England. The combatants.
A little window dressing by the New England defense. They don't do a lot of blitzing, but you see Roland James coming up as if he's going to blitz and then dropping back into coverage. However, they still threw the ball across in front, completed it. Fans here angry that they didn't get a penalty. But 2 guys fighting for the football in what it seemed to be a fair battle over there.
Moran, who kicked the ball into the end zone for the first time all season long. Stanley Morgan, once in the 70s, returned a punt for a touchdown, 80 yards, but a somewhat unfamiliar role, and a beautiful kick by Horan that will bounce into the end zone. So after going 15 games without a touchback, Horan's 2 for 2 today. And on to Hawaii to the Pro Bowl as Denver's lone representative in that All-Star Classic. Timeout. Mile High Stadium, the scene. 11:39 left, 3rd quarter. Tony Eason and the Patriots need a win for a wild card. They trail Denver 14-10. Eason to Robert Perryman for 7 yards. Carl Mecklenburg the tackle.
Dick, we were here last year for the New England-Denver game, and that was really 2 games. You remember the first half, New England really stomped all over Denver, 17-3. Second half, Denver came back to win 21-20, and course, New England would like to turn the tables and say, well, Denver, you won the first half here today. Our turn to come back and win the second half.
Second down and 3. Stevens. Enough for the first down at the 31-yard line. And again, embracing that ball, clutched with both hands as he runs it off tackle. Boyer and Mecklenburg with a stop. Dennison there as well. Boy, coaches have to love to see that. If you can give you productivity, 1,000 yards, and then show little hope of ripping the ball away, that's got to be a delight. It must bring fright to even the great backs who carried it out there like a loaf and just flirting with disaster.
Ball security. See Raymond Berry looking at his notes there. He keeps track of the plays that have been effective and tries to go back and utilize them again later in the ball game.
Stevens to the 37-yard line behind the block of Robert Perryman. Perryman serving that role just as Winder blocks so well for Dorsett the first half. A reminder, we'll be selecting our Budweiser Most Valuable Player at the conclusion of today's game.
Not only plays that have been effective, but players. That player has been effective. Doesn't matter whether he's running left or right on the day. Steve Grogan still calls some of the plays, but Raymond Berry has been calling more of the plays this year. He got more involved as Flutie became the quarterback, felt that he had a little better feel for what Flutie needed to have to work with. And although Grogan still calls some of them, Berry much more involved in the play calling this year.
Stevens on the loose. One man to beat. It's Wilson. And from behind, Castile makes the tackle at the 11-yard line. John Stevens, we told you his longest run of the year coming into this game was 21 yards, 22 yards. He gets a 23-yard touchdown and now rips off 52 yards.
Such a dangerous receiver. You see the little bounce out there, and then just utilizing his great speed, slowed down momentarily as he dodged behind to set up the block for Cedric Jones, which allowed the tackle from behind. It was Jones, by the way, who threw the big block on his touchdown run earlier.
Well, Denver's Achilles defense against the run reflected again. Perriman to the 10-yard line. Denver stubbornly allowing just a yard. Boyer down there along with Simon Fletcher, number 73 Fletcher. Folks here in Denver thought he had a shot at a Pro Bowl. Boy, Stevens showing why he earned that honor as a rookie. 132 yards rushing today. You know, he had only one 1,000-yard rushing season in college, and here he is a rookie in the NFL and has over 1,100.
Well, at 5 times this year, he's gone over the century mark. That is impressive. I said he's never been a rookie, really. He came in with great maturity, and he still is showing that here.
Denver may have been offside. Flags fly as Perriman gets to the 3-yard line. That'll be 2 yards shy of a first down. Walt Boyer may have leaned into that neutral zone.
Dick, one of the things that has troubled Denver's defense this year, for so many years they gave up a lot of yardage, but they had the ability to make the big play down when they got in, when you got inside of their 20 and down inside the 10. But unfortunately, they do not have a lot of those big play people around. Mecklenburg, who's that kind of guy, missed a lot of the season, and you don't have people like Steve Foley and Tom Jackson and Billy Thompson and Gradishar and Louis Wright. I mean, those are a list of names that they would love to have back on the field, or the equivalent thereof here today.
Defense, 5-yard penalty. Repeat the down. Second down.
Half the distance, or to 5 yards is half the distance down to the 5-yard line. Total defense this year, Minnesota, the Vikings are #1 in yards allowed. New England is 5th best in the league. The average 322 in this wide open game of the 80s. Denver is 22nd, and Philadelphia last in the league in generosity. Phil Collier. If he wants to stay in coaching, he'll find a job.
Oh, yes, yes.
Reggie Dupard gets only a couple of those 4 yards. Mecklenburg spearheading the charge. Boyer was there to assist along with Michael Brooks.
Big play people. When you need the big plays, you see them rise to the occasion. We mentioned Mecklenburg's name very often, but
you can build around him.
I'll tell you, really can. And his absence from the lineup, Dan Reeves said last year that Carl Mecklenburg is as important to our defense as John Elway is to our offense. And you strip him out of the lineup for all of those games and then put him back in with that cast on his hands, you've really done something to a defensive team.
3rd and 2. Direct snap to Tupu. And on his own, did the whistle sounded?
Yeah.
Yes. And boy, was that remindful of a play a couple of years ago that really brought pain to New England when Tupu fumbled and Dennis Smith picked it up as New England was driving for a possible win.
Collier, who is watching this play with great concern, watching as he sees that ball break loose, and then the officials saying no, the ball was blown dead. Same play we saw earlier, only this time to Tupu moving laterally. Look how he drives that pile forward. And there you're seeing that one of the weaknesses of this front seven. They really don't have physical players who can move the pile backwards. Now that's something sad to say about a front seven defensively.
Barry with a tough call. It's 4th and inches. We'll see his decision when we return. Has elected to forsake the field goal. Might have changed his mind had they made that field goal at the end of the first half. Would have made it 14-13. He wants to touch down. The ball's on the 2-yard line. 4th and inches. Eason wants the ball to be wiped as you hear this crowd at Mile High Stadium. Oh, boy, these are great fans. They're doing everything they can to help the Broncos.
Keith Bishop got that offense is involved, and you want to talk about emotional challenge here. This is a throw it in your face kind of play.
Perriman and Stevens are the running backs. Eason, incomplete. It's amazing. Stevens gets him up and down the field, but inside the 20, the tempo change doesn't give it to Perriman, and Larry Bird can't. That's a running 20-foot hook shot right on the money.
I hate to second-guess calls, but you've got an offensive line and the worst rushing defense in football, and you throw the football in an inches situation. That's one I don't like.
Dorsett gets 3 yards. Stevens, or Winder rather, and another push and shove. That Stevens carrying the ball off guard, off tackle, successful, and then once inside the 20, they didn't call any of those plays, and even on short yardage.
One of the reasons that this New England offense has been so successful running the ball, they've really challenged their offensive line. In fact, the offensive line went to Raymond Berry and said, we want to run the football. We want you to put some pressure on us and make us, give us an opportunity to show you we can do that. They have done it consistently through the year, and yet, as you say, you get down there that close and you try and finesse somebody. Well, finesse sometimes gets to be a dirty word.
Meanwhile, that goal line stand by Denver may be the answer to part of the playoff puzzle. 2nd and 7, Elway from the end zone. Vance Johnson. First down at the 26-yard line before Claiborne can wrestle him down. And emotionally, what Denver's defense did for the Broncos, this crowd, and the emotions of New England might be telling. Irving Fryer in the role of consultant today.
Fryer missed not only for his pass-catching ability, but he's one of the best blocking wide receivers in football and a tremendous threat as a punt returner.
Elway again with lots of time, and another drop by the tight end. so Mobley's dropped 2, and Kay has dropped 2.
Mobley and Kay are just having a horrible day. And Elway is looking out there and said, what in the world is wrong with my tight ends? Fourth receiver, so important. You've got 3 wide men that demand coverage, and so you have an opportunity to go to a tight end or go to a running back. And then they drop the football.
5 minutes and 12 seconds remaining, third quarter. Denver 14, New England 10. That was the score at halftime. Mobley this time, he does catch the ball and breaks a tackle to the 35.
Well, we got a holding call over there on Dave Studdard, who literally threw Andre Tippett to the ground.
Look at Tippett. He's furious. He takes his helmet off.
I don't blame him for being angry. That's a takedown. Watch number 70. That's Dave Studdard. Tippett is going to go by him. Studdard just grabs his shoulder, and that just takes him down to the ground. Tippett, keep an eye on Tippett. He stripped off his helmet and came storming back to the line.
Offense, number 70, 10-yard penalty. Repeat the down. Second down.
Well, the great players, Lawrence Taylor, I'm sure, would concur with Tippett that they're held on every play, and that sometimes because you are an outstanding player, it carries a disadvantage. They overlook some things.
Like when Keith Bishop, for example, was having to sit out some with that Bennett's fracture of his thumb with a big cast on his hand, and I said, what's most difficult about playing with that cast? He said, I can't hold, and it's become a reality for the offensive linemen. They just do it well enough not to get caught on many occasions.
That's not just Denver, it's every team in the league. Elway scrambles, and he was down. The ball is dead as soon as he slides, so again, it's the same as if you're tackled, the ground can't cause a fumble, so there's no fumble.
I'm sure that one of the things that Reeves has told Elway is to slide every time you run that football. Now there's someone who's a little upset. That's Bruce Armstrong. Talk about the conversations about wanting to run the ball more. He's the man that went to Barry. And there's the slide. Watch Billy Bryan, number 64, the center up there to protect his quarterback. A very personal relationship between John Elway and that offensive line.
I was going to say with the center, I guess you can't avoid that. Quarterbacks and center.
Billy has had a tough year. He's physically a very tough year.
Elway gets away from Tippett, but he can't hit Jackson.
Talking about Billy Bryan, you talk to Billy, and if you talk to him from behind, he has to turn his shoulders because he can't rotate that neck. Watch Tippett heading for the sideline, and here is Tippett on that left play. We've seen him from the right side as well as the left, bursting by the blocking of Ken Lanier. Kenny got him on the second time around, but he got great pressure on Elway.
That's a picture of intensity. Tippett driving at the quarterback.
Well, he just explodes off that line.
10 men on the line of scrimmage for New England, and Morgan back at his 32. Oh, very nearly blocked by Jim Bowman. And a bounce for Horan.
Well, that's Stanley Morgan's inexperience. Irving Fryer would have come up on the fly to take that one. Stanley called a fair catch as he'd been instructed to. But Raymond, I'm sure, has also told him, don't take a chance. And Stanley backpedaled on that one, and it took a Denver bounce.
51 yards on the punt, and they could almost taste the block. Come to blocking this punt. So New England wasting a scoring opportunity their last possession when they had the ball at the 2-yard line. And now have to start over again from inside their 30, and Michael Brooks with a solid hit. And he's one of those players that does have the size that might be able to move the pile. I want to go back and underline what you said, that part of the problem with the Bronco defense, they played cerebrally and with stunts and clever schemes. But you say of their front 7 men, no one there strong enough to move the pile.
They really don't have the kind of dominant physical player to step in there and push people back. And I think partially by choice, because Collier's system is one of constant movement.
Eason dumps it off. And Mr. Everything, John Stevens, is taken out of bounds by Simon Fletcher. He wanted to go to Stevens right off the bat, but it wasn't there, so he pumped once and waited for Stevens to clear the corner.
One of the things that has not been talked about at the end of last season, after the Washington Redskins blew Denver's defense out so badly, scoring at one point on 5 consecutive drives, Dan Reeves said, I'm going to get involved with the defense. I'm going to go over and get some of my philosophy into the defense. Well, the change in coaches kept him from doing that during the 88 season.
Third down. Eason will run for it. He's not going to get it. Jim Ryan got Eason. And the Patriots are going to have to punt. And now it starts to get more and more serious for New England. They trail 14-10. Already fans have to be thinking about 2 field goals that weren't made. One kicked and missed, and one that they didn't go for when they were stuffed at the 2-yard line. And now Eason is nailed, and into punt comes Fiegels. 2 minutes, 7 seconds left in the third quarter.
Not a good kick.
The Teal can return this one from the 34. Running start all the way to the 48-yard line. And now, after starting on the 2-yard line, what seemed just minutes ago, now it's Elway starting from midfield. Lopes, Denver's last game, and it may be New England's last game. When you were a rookie, do you remember your last game?
I remember it well. In fact, we were out of the season, I think, three games in, and the last game of the season, the Wyatts had packed the U-Hauls, and they were lined up in the tunnel, and the guys are coming off the field throwing their pads, and nobody got in the shower, and in 5 minutes, they were all on the freeway with the engines racing.
Yeah, certainly the Broncos are not in that mood today, the way they've played. Here's Dorsett having a big game and getting more. Out of bounds at the 36-yard line. Keith Karts throwing a good block. And Dorsett having one of the best games since early in the year.
Well, he had 2 100-yard games early. It kind of disappeared from the offense. And we mentioned early in this ball game, obviously given an opportunity to be showcased here a bit in this ball game, and has responded with some very fine runs.
Well, he's 60 yards away from costing Denver a couple of places in the draft list.
Conditional draft. They give away a 3 instead of a 5 for him.
Winder breaks a tackle, and he's down close to the 30-yard line. Roland James finally secures the stop.
Dan Reeves was asked about changes for this Bronco team, and obviously they have to make them. They have to bite the bullet. They've got a lot of players getting old. Reeves said the only one that won't be critically reviewed is the owner, Patrick Bolin. But Chuck Knox used to talk about a run for the bus game. The last game of the season didn't mean anything. He said the players that are running for the bus and not worried about the game, I don't want those guys on my team. These Broncos have not run for the bus today.
And in fact, looking for more to add to their 14-10 lead. Oh, Winder runs into a tough tackler, Elway. Elway spins, and a mistake on the play as Winder going one way and Elway the other, and they ran into each other.
Most unusual. Let's see if we can tell who's at fault. Elway there, and Winder lucky that did not result in a fumble, as Winder able to clamp down on that football. Frequently that kind of collision will put the football on the ground. As it is, it brings up a 3rd and 8 yards to go.
From the 34, final seconds, third quarter. 4 wide receivers. Almost intercepted. Well read by Roland James, and only because the pass was low was James denied, and he had a running start going the other way. 24 seconds left in the third quarter, and let's see how it's going to be a punt and not a field goal try. So James' defense denies the Broncos a possible field goal that would give them a 7-point lead. Wayne's third punt, the first 2 went into the end zone. So is this one. No, he'd actually caught the corner at the 5-yard line. Horan with a tough kick. So how field position has changed from the 2 with New England on the Denver 2, and now it's New England on their own 5.
Field position, the name of the game. The further you can start your opponent away from your own goal line, the more opportunities you give him to self-destruct, and the more chances you have to make something happen. Now, right now, it's a long green. I'll tell you, that's one of those long shots on the pool table where you're backed up against the opposite railing.
Patriots scored first, 7-0. Then Denver, a couple of touchdowns, 14-7. New England with a field goal, had another after a fumble late in the first half. Missed that one. And then we're stopped on 4th and inches at the 2 here in the 3rd quarter. And Bob Perriman gets a short yardage, and that probably will run out the 3rd period. Andre Townsend, the tackler. So the end of 3 quarters at Mile High Stadium. New England. A win gets them the wild card, but they trail by 4. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. 15-minute season. Through 3 quarters, only 6 total yards separate the 2 teams. More importantly, 4 points. The separation. Denver leading 14-10. Second down and 8 from the 7-yard line for the Patriots. Their 7. They were stopped on Denver's 2. A possible go-ahead touchdown in the 3rd. Eason down at the 4-yard line. Walt Boyer. Flag is down in the Denver secondary.
One of the things you do get out of the smaller, more active, more agile player is good pursuit. You see it here with Boyer from his defensive end position, able to catch up with Eason, who is quicker than he looks.
There is no flag. Quarterback was out of the pocket.
Of course, as soon as that quarterback starts to run, changes the rules downfield.
So you can chuck a man if you looks as if it's a running play developing.
One of the weaknesses of this New England offense is their inability to break down the field in a hurry. They need to drive, and that's Eason. That's Eason limping quite badly in the end zone. Looked like he may have racked that knee a little bit when he went down, but Eason is not a deep thrower. He's a controlled pass thrower, and they need the long drive. They need to drive it a piece at a time to get the points on the board. It's not a good situation for them here.
From the end zone, Eason hands off to Dupart. And he's out of bounds at the 10-yard line, shy of the first down. Dennis Smith, another tackle. He's been as good as his Pro Bowl years in Denver, the way he's played today.
And Eason is injured. Barry said if Eason were injured, I would have to start using both of my quarterbacks. I don't feel that I can use either one of them separately. I would use Grogan on 3rd downs, and I would use both Grogan and Flutie in combination on 1st and 2nd down. Let's see how badly injured that knee is. We may indeed see him have to do that here late in the ball game.
Jeff Eagles to punt from his own end zone. Natil, a dangerous return man at the other end. Best kick of the day for Fiegels. It'll force Natil to his 43. A reverse to Bell that did not fool Ernest Gibson and 4 other Patriots. Darrell Holmes was there first. Gibson made the hit. 14 minutes left. 14-10 Broncos. In the Patriot bullpen, number 14 Steve Grogan and number 2 Doug Flutie.
Pair of right-handers in the bullpen.
As they attend to Tony Eason, here's how Eason was injured. The tackle by Walt Boyer. Good clean hit, but it catches him around that right knee, and
see him reaching for that knee instantly as he goes to the ground.
Oh, the Broncos leading 14-10 have the ball at their own 47. Elway to Jackson. Boy, was that dangerous collision course Jackson and Ronnie Lepet were running. They avoided each other, and the ball avoided Jackson.
Time for this New England defense to rise to the challenge. Last week, Tampa Bay was in New England territory 8 times. They came away with 7 points. They started 3 fourth-quarter drives inside Patriot territory. Right now, this Patriot defense needs to get a turnover, needs to get some field position for their offense.
Elway again protected well, but overshoots Steve Sewell down at the 42 of the Patriots. It'll bring up 3rd and 10.
Patriots made some changes in their defense this year. Rod Rust, the longtime coordinator of their defense, went to Kansas City, and they didn't want to pick a coordinator. They had 3 qualified people, Don Shinnick and Eddie Kayat and Jimmy Carr. They kind of let the 3 of them run this defense almost by committee. And Carr, who sits up in the booth, makes the calls for the defense, but he does it in a way that they've all talked about what they want, and the system is working. They've had a good year defensively, although right now, as I said, they need the big play.
Here comes Rembert, and he forces the quick throw by Elway, incomplete. So Johnny Rembert from the outside applying pressure. Ricky Nattiel was the closest Bronco, so 3 incomplete passes, and the Broncos will have to punt.
We can remember just moments ago how close New England came to blocking a Horan kick, and you have to wonder if maybe they won't try again. Dante Scarnecchia, their special teams
wife watching, Lori Flutie from New England. And things have to be a little nervous in that part of the country. Whoops. Patriots offside. And 5 yards won't give them Denver a first down. It'll bring up 4th and 5.
Certainly will give them an opportunity to pick up extra yardage on the kick, too. And you're already almost guaranteed.
Encroachment, defense, number 23, 5-yard penalty, repeat the down, 4th down.
McSwain, who blocked a punt, first game of his career, as I recall. As Bishop, the man said, how in the world he can even get the ball back there with.
Well, that's a cast much like Mecklenburg's. He said he snaps with the right hand, controls with the left, but we've seen some bad snaps during the year. He's a great snapper when he's two-handed. That's a good snap.
And Moran gets off a high kick, good catch. Morgan lets it bounce, and it goes right to Bell, who downs it at the 5-yard line. So for the second consecutive time, New England starts at its 5, and they'll start apparently with a new quarterback. Played a fail-safe passing game, short passes, 94 yards, but injured knee on the sidelines. And Steve Grogan, not Flutie, Grogan the veteran, 35-year-old Grogan out of Kansas State in his 14th year. He's led the Patriots to some great rallies. But Perriman is stacked up by Brooks, and a fumble on the play after the whistle.
Dick, I think if this drive had started out toward midfield, out beyond the 30, you might have seen Flutie in the ball game. Down backed up, they want the experience of Grogan, and the other thing they want is his long ball ability. You see that ball bouncing away, the official pointing to the ground, indicating the whistle had blown before it bounced loose. But Grogan, unlike Eason, loves to throw the long ball. He likes to turn it loose downfield. And New England in need of big yardage at this time in the ball game.
Tupu is the running back behind Grogan. And he hits Cedric Jones for what appears to be a first down out at the 17-yard line. Steve Wilson on the coverage, make it the 18.
Eason testing that knee on the sideline, but he is iced up, and
that's usually a very bad sign.
Well, very frustrated by the injury. He said, look, I just barely got back from all of these problems with my thumb and my shoulder. Now a knee. Why me?
Will not return, but we heard that about Tim Goad, and he did. But it appears to be in the hands of the team of Grogan and Flutie now, and Grogan going deep for Jones, and too long. Good pressure Broncos, Greg Cragen.
Pressure coming from a stud as Cragen, coming all the way from his nose tackle position, looped around. Grogan realizes there's no time left. Simon Fletcher, number 73, also there. Here's the stunt right here as they come around to the outside and go inside. Well, no time to show you that. Yeah, there it is, quickly. Now we're back to live action.
That's the way to get the job done. Just speed up the machine.
There you go.
Incomplete behind Perriman, right into the heels of Jim Ryan. 3rd and 10.
Frequently, when a second quarterback comes on the field, you see a letdown by the defense. So far, you haven't seen that from this Bronco defense. And looking at Grogan's numbers, all-time Patriot passers, Babe Pirelli and a Jim Plunkett. Plunkett's numbers, of course, would be abetted by some that he picked up out in Los Angeles with the Raiders.
Grogan in his day also had some good numbers running the ball. He was the top rushing quarterback 4 years.
Yeah. He did what Elway did early in his career.
Over the middle to Jones, and he can't hang on. Tyrone Braxton and Mike Harden were there. Braxton in front of Jones might have shielded him from the ball. Meanwhile, Jones, Rulon Jones, and Carl Mecklenburg were applying pressure.
You can't throw a pass better than that. We talked about the long arm that Grogan still possesses. Watch how perfectly thrown that pass is. That's a catchable ball.
Interesting that neither team, Erlen, has converted on 3rd down the entire second half.
Big numbers in the first half on the conversions.
The Eagles' kick is a perfect spiral. Mathiel at the 32. And down at the 42. Darrell Holmes made the tackle. A 52-yard punt by Eagles, and a flag is down. New England throughout the day has had ineligible men downfield on the punt. Let's see this time. Yep.
Well, and we saw Reeves say no the last time. He didn't want them to punt again. 42-yard net on that punt. Maybe he just doesn't want to risk his people on punt return, which is a place where you do normally get people
on the defense,
hurt.
number 73, downfield early. Penalty is declined. 1st and 10, Denver.
Win or lose, a heavy day emotionally for Dan Reeves. He's going to have to say goodbye to some very close friends. Goes with one of the truly fine home records in football in the 80s. They've only lost twice this year. Their opener, 21-14 to Seattle, and then that disaster in overtime to the Raiders, 30-27 when Denver left 24-0 at the half. And Tony Dorsett gallops to the 43, and a flag down. Could be a face mask on the end of the play. 15 more yards for Dorsett.
Face mask. Defense, number 31. 5-yard penalty. 1st down.
Brett Merriam, reliable free safety, in position to make the tackle and reaches out. Well, no question about it. Took a hold of that mask. And Dorsett, who doesn't always say what he means, we talked about his future. He said, I don't care about a future here. It really doesn't matter to me. Is playing today like it really matters to him.
Long-range future. The way he's playing, 88 yards for Dorsett. He gets the call again, and nothing there this time. Just to repeat that situation on the draft, Joel, here's a still active. It gives you a reflection how New England is drafted and the players that made their team versus the Denver draft, where they have only Perry, Kelly a tight end, and Guidry a reserve cornerback.
And only Gerald Perry has had a chance to start and have an impact. The other two really marginal players. New England, on the other hand, with 3 starters out of this group. John Stephen and Tim Goad, and also the linebacker Vincent Brown has started. Impact players, and those others that you saw listed there. An outstanding list of young players who will eventually, I think, help this New England team.
Denver has called a timeout. in a surprising spot in this game. They've called time. In fact, Dan Reeves himself looked surprised on the sidelines.
We've seen that several times this year. In fact, it was a question of timeout or no timeout that lost Denver 3 points in that crucial game just before the half against the Los Angeles Raiders. And later in the season, we saw Reeves absolutely red-faced and furious. That was down in New Orleans, wasn't it, when he was so mad about
the Raider game?
The Raider game in L.A. That's right, in L.A.
Well, tomorrow there'll be some mixed emotions, the highs and lows of this season down to the final Sunday. Houston at Cleveland. And that's a winner-take-all for a wild card berth. Buffalo, Indianapolis. The Colts are still alive, and they're getting help thus far from Denver. Miami at Pittsburgh. And then the second half of our doubleheader, Seattle and the Raiders. The winner wins the AFC West. It could be Seattle 9-7. It could be the Raiders 8-8. Good enough to win it.
Wouldn't that be something? I don't know if that's a good something.
On 2nd and 12, Elway off play action. Vance Johnson out of bounds at the 31-yard line. They don't stop the clock on that. They say play dead inbounds. 3rd down and 3.
Little play fake to hold things inside, and then Elway was working on Lepet. Right side, here's Lepet, one-on-one, and it's turned all the way around by Vance Johnson. Lepet, who has excellent form, excellent technique. I think one of the finest cornerbacks in football at this point in his career.
That was a quick whistle. So the play was dead inbounds. Clock runs. 14-10, Denver leads. Flying catch by Mark Jackson. First down at the 22. Jackson's 5th catch. Ernest Gibson on the coverage.
Not close enough to cover, but look at this leaping catch. A circus catch that Jackson has made routine over the past 3 weeks.
Andre Tippett.
Oh, boy. You wonder why he's angry at the end of a ball game? Jim Juriga hanging onto that face mask. That's frustration there. No flag.
For Jackson now has 25 catches in the last 4 games. Winder right through the hole. He's still going to the 4-yard line. 1st and goal, Denver.
It's not an easy task to sustain emotion in a game that means absolutely nothing in terms of playoffs. But you mentioned some key words: pride, job security. The last opportunity these coaches are going to have to judge their talent comes today, and a lot of talent has shown a good mark today.
1st and goal with 9:22 to go, and Winder has the touchdown.
Denver Broncos had the players vote on most valuable players, the most valuable players on offense, John Elway, you could expect that, and Sammy Winder. Well, that's the kind of play that they were applauding here in Denver when they voted him co-MVP offense for the year 1988.
Carlos trying for point with Kubiak holding. And contact made by Garen Veras. Bishop, because of those heavy wraps in his hands and gripping the ball, has just enough movement that it's attracting the defense of New England. Well, this is the same
start on number 64 offense. 5-yard penalty. 1 try.
Bill Bryan.
Well, I'm not sure Billy's even in there. He may be 54. I think he's looking at that center and saying 64 and calling the false start on the center. And you're not allowed to simulate the snap. If you do that, you draw the penalty. It's the same thing as an offensive lineman raising up or lifting up.
Another bad snap. And Carlos gets gets it through. But credit Kubiak again with a terrific catch. So the mathematics now for New England. 9 minutes and 18 seconds left and 10 points to tie. They have a couple of possessions, you would think, in that amount of time, but they must be opportunistic and productive now. And the irony, Winder so easily on 1st and goal. Well, not that easily, but in one play they got a touchdown, where New England in the same half of the field, same situation, could not score in the 3rd quarter, and that may be the most important series in the New England season. And Raymond Berry, typically, whether high or low, he just hides behind that stone face.
It's consistency.
Well, I've never seen a year where so many teams out of it have played so hard and so well. There have been years where just, you look for the big score, 38-10. Sure, that team was out of it. It's been just the reverse this season. Hollis scuffs it a bit. This guy's dangerous. But not when he's hit that early by Ken Bell. Martin denied the 20-yard line.
Who do you think the most valuable player was on special teams elected by the players?
Ken Bell on cue.
Yes, absolutely on cue. Big special teams play.
Well, here's the man that's going to be called upon to rally his team. And if there's any one player, at least in the clubhouse or with respect on the playing field on this New England roster, it is the veteran Steve Grogan. I mean, he is a highly competitive guy. He's a firebrand type. And this is a time where he'll call upon all his veteran resources. Townsend missed an easy tackle, and Grogan turns it into a first down. Cedric Jones out of bounds at the 34-yard line. 14 yards to match the number on the quarterback's back. Barry looking through, squinting through. He doesn't have great vision, saying, how did he get that done?
I'll tell you, this is one of those marvelous escapes. Grogan just ducking underneath right there. You'll wake up. Greg Townsend will feel that tackle, and he'll relive that opportunity to make a sack about a dozen times in his sleep tonight.
Morgan left. Jones right. Good protection. And it goes to Dupar, the running back. He stops the clock out of bounds at the 39. Brooks the closest Bronco.
This is a time when the New England Patriots sorely miss Irving Fryer, a big play receiver. In fact, it was Fryer who really ignited those last drives in New England when Eason was able to reach him with the football on several key situations, and Eason now on crutches on the sideline, taking the pressure off of that leg, and the pressure squarely on his fellow quarterback, Steve Grogan.
Second down and 5. Less than 9 minutes to go. Grogan guns a ball, and it's a catch at the 43. Sammy Martin. That was a fine reception, as Martin, who had only 2 catches all year, comes up with 18 yards and a first down in Bronco territory at the 43. Hand off to Perriman, and the Broncos were waiting for it. Randy Robbins, 48. Roland Jones, 75. And the clock, that electronic monster when you're behind, continues to eat up every precious second. Mosi Tutupu getting an extra yard with those powerful legs, but it's not enough for a first down. 8 yards, so it'll be 3rd and 2. Ryan and Smith, the tacklers.
John Stevens, who had been so effective in the early going, has been noticeably absent until now.
Here he comes back into the lineup.
Onto the field.
Stevens, who had a 23-yard touchdown run and a 52-yard run that seemingly set up New England for the lead. Now Stevens runs right into number 71, Greg Cragen. Now again, Denver had a stun on. Cragen looping to the outside.
something. He had his defenders coming to the left, and there they were, waiting for Stevens.
2-yard loss, so it's 4th and 4.
And they're going for it.
They're all big plays now. Grogan and Dupart makes a top catch with Robbins all over him, and it's a 12-yard gain and a first down. And the clock down by 10 points. And the cheering section back home. Grogan going for 6. Touchdown, no, intercepted. It's intercepted by Tyrone Braxton. Took it right out of the hands of Cedric Jones.
And in their own special way, this defense is saying to Joe Collier, hey, Joe, we want you to go out with one you can be proud of. I'm sure he's proud of that play. That's the kind of takeaway, the kind of defensive finish to a drive that he has seen so often and engineered so often for these Broncos.
And Grogan might have tried to get it done too quickly. His pass was a little underthrown, and Braxton perfectly in front of Jones to make the interception. Flags go down as Milford Hodge hits Winder in the backfield. Well, we started today, Merlin, by talking about the Denver defense not being good enough. The defense that gave away Christmas. Well, maybe New England's offense, next to last in the league, wasn't good enough either.
Well, I don't think this game today necessarily reflects the
illegal
strength,
motion. Offense, number 89.
the level of
Penalty
performance
is declined. 2nd down.
of these two teams. I think what we have to look at is what has happened emotionally today. And there's been a lot of up and down emotionally, but the one thing that has been expressed again and again on the field by these players is that they were not going to allow this to be a bad day for Denver. Thoroughly embarrassed last week as this defense was stomped. I mean, Seattle took the ball 6 times and went straight down to score. They did not want that to happen here today, and it hasn't.
Gary Kubiak is now the quarterback for Elway. And they stay on the ground predictably, and New England waiting for it. Tippett wraps up Winder. And the clock is at 5:47. As we did initially, the Patriot wives thought it was a touchdown, only to find that Braxton was the football version of the Scrooge there. Well, what a... Yeah, you can appreciate it more than anyone, Merlin, the emotions and the feelings and the people, so many people intimately who care. I mean, fans care, but they can shuck it off after a couple of days. I mean, this is your livelihood.
You live with it for that whole off season, and walking away with a loss today would have left such bitter memories for this Bronco team. Kubiak down by Brent Williams,
and almost took the ball away from Kubiak in the process.
If you're wondering why Kubiak is on the field, I'm sure that Dan Reeves not about to take any chances with John Elway's help.
This is what Dan said earlier. No one would doubt that he's never been a loser. And
the bottom part of that, the bottom part of there is the message. We've got to surround ourselves with people who feel the same way. And this was a gut check for a lot of folks today. And the message was loud and clear. We want you to register how you're going to vote, which side you're going to be on.
Stanley Morgan is back at the New England 45. Horan punting from his end zone. Short kick. And it takes a Denver bounce out of bounds right on the 50-yard line. 4:39 left. The Patriots have spent one of their timeouts. Remember, they used it when it was 4th and inches down on the 2-yard line. And will this be the play that you remember from this New England season?
I'm sure it's the one that Raymond Berry will remember. An opportunity to use that big offensive line, and John Stephen Perriman to go up inside. Instead, he elected to try and finesse that Denver defense, and it backfired.
Tough to finesse, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, you don't finesse a finesser, and that's exactly what happened in this situation.
Patriots still are in it, but they need to score on this possession, you would think. And to Tupu, and you don't even have to see the number when a man starts moving tacklers with him the way Mosi does. Braxton was in on the stop. No huddle. On 2nd and 4. Dupart, but he doesn't get out of bounds. It's a first down, but the clock runs. And now New England is battling 2 opponents. The Bronco defense, much maligned. And that clock that now spells 4 minutes and under. Down the middle, Cedric Jones, the intended receiver.
That'll kill the clock. Mecklenburg applying the pressure. And one of the realities of this situation, we've been informed that Collier and his defensive staff will not survive this disastrous season, and by Denver standards it was a disastrous season. And along with Collier, because of a change in system, a lot of these players whose play allows them, by virtue of their intelligence, by virtue of their knowledge of the system, to survive, they will not survive under a new system. People like a Jim Ryan, for example, perhaps a Dennison. Many of the smaller offensive players will probably not survive the changeover.
Incomplete. Dupart, ball thrown a little behind him. It's 3rd and 10. And for Raymond Berry, what a season for him. They start out by beating the Jets, and then they lose Minnesota, Buffalo, and Houston badly. Then they beat Indiana and lose 45-3 to Green Bay. So they're 2-4. And that's when he changed and went to the running game. The defense held things together, and they close out the year 7-2, and their 2 losses, as we said, by just field goals. But today
was another story, and an opportunity with so much to gain. They have not been able to convert.
3rd and 10. Screen to Dupart. He's got a couple of blockers. And he uses the sidelines, out of bounds at the 26. That's going to be right at the yardstick.
He's short by about a half a yard, I believe, Dick.
Stops the clock. That was as important as the first down. We'll see whether it's 4th and 1.
The chains all the way on the other side of the field, so they may have to bring them across and measure, but I believe he's about a half a yard short.
They are going to measure. Well, New England has been notoriously bad on the road on grass fields, and this year hadn't scored a touchdown, just field goals, and losing at Green Bay 45-3, but beat Miami 6-3.
They're a little better on grass than Denver has been on artificial turf, but they're not as comfortable on an opposing surface as they are on their own. And of course, Denver is a natural turf team, New England an artificial turf team.
It's a first down. That nose just tickling the yardstick.
So much for these eyes of mine. Maybe it's time to go to the Cedars. Dick, we've seen the Patriot wives a bit today. The Bronco wives have been busy as well. They continued their food drive today. Earlier in the year, they brought in 43 tons of food and $23,000 in donations. And they added to that $3,500 from the players, distributed that to shelters and missions and food banks. And a very worthy opportunity for them to help the community and the homeless and those who are in need.
Truly the spirit of this holiday season. On first down, Grogan has a fly swatted down by Greg Cragen. Cragen, who has led this team in tackles this year at nose guard, certainly a overachiever, has played another big game today.
He's earned the right, I believe. You see him right in the center of your picture, number 71. When they asked, would you stand up and be counted on this day when some folks were running for the buses, he's given you an answer.
Played at Utah State, your alma mater.
I remember him well. Verlon Jones, too, also out of Utah State. Tackle U for a long time.
Grogan down the middle, but over the head of the intended target. Jones again. That's the same play, apparently. Appeared to be that Grogan tried that was intercepted by Braxton.
You really have the feeling that this Bronco defense is saying, hey, Joe, this one's for you. For the 20 years here with the Broncos, surviving 4 different head coaches, 3 Super Bowls. They would like to have won one of those.
He goes back to the first day of the AFL season.
Really
he was a Boston Patriot.
Was a Boston Patriot to start? He actually coached, was the head coach in the for the Buffalo Bills for a short time.
Grogan with 3:28 left looks at 3rd and 10. And he's going deep. Ooh. Almost on the deflection to Dennis Gadbois, who was just activated.
Yeah, out of the hands of Steve Wilson. Wilson we mentioned in there because of injuries to Mark Haynes. And of course, they're challenging on that side. That ball in and out of the hands of number 45 Wilson. And look how close it comes to being caught by Gadbois. And then dropping to the ground.
4th and 10, and Grogan has to get at least 10, or it would appear the Broncos with a 10-point lead would be able to run it out. Martin and Jones, the speed is to the right. He goes back to the middle, and Morgan, the veteran, has a first down at the 10 as he snares a bullet in a 16-yard gain between Dennis Smith and Mike Harden.
For so many years, it was that combination that clicked in New England. Grogan to Morgan.
On first down, he throws it away. Boy, you look back on this game, and the field goal missed at the end of the half, and then that 4th and inches down at the 2-yard line were even a field goal then. If you figure that Grogan can move them in, and of course the Wives are. That was a reaction to the 4th down must completion by Grogan. And you don't think that the folks, Indianapolis Colts Wives, are cheering the other way today, do you?
They're not watching with any interest.
They need Denver to win for their hopes of a playoff spot to be alive, but that won't be the only victory they need. 2nd and 10 from the 10. Incomplete, and Dennis Smith, who was a 7-foot high jumper, he really had Jones blanketed.
And all over the top of Grogan. What number do you think that guy wore? 77. Carl Mecklenburg.
That one didn't have much of a chance. But Grogan has to look for something out of the ordinary.
Well, the MVPs, as you might guess, have made their presence felt today, although Mecklenburg was not picked as the MVP on defense because of his absence. That's logical, missing as many games as he did. Simon Fletcher was chosen there by the Broncos.
Russ Francis late coming on the field, the tight end. Look out. It was Townsend who got there first, and Roland Jones with a payoff. And now 4th down, and the ball is at the 23-yard line. The clock stopped for a moment with a sack of the quarterback, but now running. And this then is the season.
Talk about Wives and how much they have at stake and how much the players have at stake. New owners of the Patriots, Victor Kiam and Fran Murray, also, I'm sure, twisting emotionally as they were hoping for an opportunity to see this one go their way so they could be in the playoffs.
Into the end zone, and incomplete. Denver takes over on downs.
Dennis Smith over there. Steve Wilson over there. That ball almost over the top. Well, those faces tell you the story.
And on downs, Denver will start from the 24. We mentioned at the start of the game, as you look at the obvious disappointment of the Patriots, who came here with a one-game mission. A victory meant playoffs. About these Denver fans. And many have felt that they're as good as any in the league. And we talked about the no-shows today. And it was an extraordinary number for Denver. 5,287 didn't come today. Over 70,000, with the season basically over, did. Not many NFL cities could boast of such an attendance or support of their team.
There's an incredible fan base here, and I don't think it's equal or better to anywhere in the league. But I think the other thing that's happened in this town, I think there are a lot of fans who've been spoiled by Denver's success. And I think they have not maintained that unconditional loyalty to the fans. They've been tough on the Broncos this year in a season when the Broncos have not been at the top of the stack.
Steve Sewell on the carry, the 2-minute timeout. And apparently Denver is going to spoil all the Patriot hopes. What might have been. Tony Eason injured in this second half. Steve Grogan unable to make the big play in his reserve, and Doug Flutie didn't play.
Well, and I said earlier, I really felt that that was dictated by field position. They started that first drive so deep in their own territory. They needed big yardage. Flutie primarily is effective running the football. He wants to hand off the running game and then roll out and throw the short passes, the control passes. But as much as anything, I think that Barry was betting on the experience of Grogan and the ability to read those long-distance defenses, those zone coverages, that nickel package that he was facing. And in fact, he had said to me, if it's a passing situation, I really have to go with Grogan's experience. And I think that's dictated the substitutions here in this fourth quarter.
If I had a microphone and could put it to Ray Barry now, I'd ask him, why was Stevens running so well most of the game? When he got inside the 20, he didn't use them. They seemed to change the game.
Particularly, Dick, on that critical 4th and inches situation. I mean, you don't take the ball out of your best runner's hands and risk it at that point. Of course, let's take it from the other angle. If they throw that pass for a touchdown, then we applaud him for his courageousness.
That's right. Oh, hindsight, the old 20/20 vision. But Stevens was forgotten when they got down into scoring range, and he got them. He did score from 23 yards out for the only New England touchdown. Eason, the starter before injured, got 94 yards passing. It was Stevens really the offense, as it has been most of the successful games this year. Morgan, 5 catches for 60, 5 of 14 third down conversions, and only 1 in the second half. Denver defense was, well, it's been a schizophrenic defense. Sometimes they played well, and this, to the ill fortune of New England, was a day when the Broncos, playing perhaps with ultra emotion for that man, Joe Collier, gave it the aggression and the effort that the owner and the head coach and Collier himself has been begging for and hasn't always received this year.
Well, and it's been a lack of emotion frequently that has given them those sad days when they have been blown out, and there have been more blowouts defensively, of course, which has forced the changes here, the defensive philosophy and the defensive situation in Denver.
Kubiak, the quarterback. Sewell on a reverse. And Fred Marion just does bump him out of bounds at the 44-yard line. Well, knowing that New England would stack it up, just looking for the run into the line, Dan Reeves calls a reverse.
We talked about Reeves taking John Elway out of the game, not risking his quarterback, who's going to be operated on for a bursa, an elbow problem on Monday. But Reeves also has to be proud of Elway's response to this season. And they asked Elway what he was going to do after the season. He said, I'm going to take a hard look at myself and see how I can improve my game. Now, that's the kind of response that coaches appreciate, and I'm sure, and it's an honest one from Elway. He's as tough a competitor as Reeves is.
Kubiak will just take the kneel, and here comes the almost predictable melee. Johnny Rembert over there, 52, still engaged with Clarence Kay. Mike Ruther is in the thick of things with Milford Hodge. And you don't want to mess with that man. Tippett, a second-degree black belt karate expert.
You notice how there was just a kind of a nice space around him. The people are looking for his number, saying, okay, I'll go over there. No, you got to know. They know Tippett. He's got to be frustrated, as are all of these New England Patriots. Let's watch this play as it develops. The fight developing right there on the line of scrimmage. Steve Sewell, I believe, number 30, and 52 Rembert initially going at it, and that just exploded things. But there's Tippett. He's saying to Sammy Winder, "You really don't want to fight with me." And Winder, you saw the smile on his face. "No, sir. No, sir." Yeah, I guess we can find a little humor in this, but there's more tragedy if you happen to be a New England fan, or if you happen to be a player dressed in red and white here today, or a coach, any one of these members of this team who have fought so hard to get back and to have an opportunity at these playoffs.
57 on the offense. Personal foul. 26 on the defense. Penalties are all set. Number 57 on the offensive team has been ejected.
Mike Ruther, the center. Raymond Berry's team will finish 9-7. And it's conceivable that the winning team in the AFC West that won't have to play a wild card will be 8-8 if it's the Raiders. The Seattle Seahawks and their fans on the road will try to repeat their impressive win that they scored against the Raiders up in the Kingdome. If that's the case tomorrow, and you'll see it on NBC, it'll be Seattle into the playoffs. The Bronco report card. Elway, solid but not spectacular. Dorsett, outstanding game for him, 86 yards.
Yeah. We shouldn't really say that New England is eliminated from the battle, because they're not, but they certainly are eliminated from controlling the battle. And that's what they have lost today, is an opportunity to assure themselves that playoff spot. Of course, if Cleveland wins tomorrow and Indianapolis loses tomorrow, they still happen to be able to go into the playoffs, and that's a very real possibility. There it is, accurately, but that's not the way they wanted to do it. This is a team that wanted to march into the playoffs with a victory today.
Well, both those things could happen tomorrow.
They well could.
Not without realism. That's not that long a shot.
I think what disappoints New England is that they really felt that they were playing the kind of football that they could come in here and, even with all of what Denver was feeling today, could go out and dominate this game and win it. And they have not been able to do it.
Well, they'll become fans like the rest of us tomorrow.
Well, a little more at stake. There are playoff checks still to be gained if they can get the right combination, but that's like standing at the table in Las Vegas and putting your money on boxcars.
Yeah, that's the 30-to-1 shots, yeah. Well, they spent their last time out, so now it's just the cosmetic exercise of taking the snap from center. And Denver, and it seems like a simple thing. I think the Collier dismissal has really spurred his team, and they played really at their optimum in there. Reuben Carter was a star. He was one of the big guys that did play well, and there's he's got to be fighting back tears, Collier.
Well, I think there'll be a lot of tears before this day is over, and there should be. You don't part with that kind of history and that kind of tradition and that kind of quality without a lot of pain. Without a lot of pain.
He's outlived everybody that he's coaching now in terms of the playing time.
Merle Moore on this side, the linebacker coach. Stan Jones has been here almost as long as Collier. Two longtime assistants, 18 years, 12 years.
On the positive side, the Broncos will not be a losing team this year. They will finish 8-8. As we heard Joe Gibbs earlier for Washington, that's important for coaches. They don't like to look at that less wins and losses season.
Even if it costs them a position or two in the draft, they're willing to take that. It sets a tone for this offseason, and that's important for all of these players.
There's a man who is our Budweiser most valuable player in this game, Greg Cragen. Budweiser will make a contribution to the United Way on behalf of all the MVPs selected in today's game. Not a big man as nose tackles go, but he led this Denver team in tackles for the year, and he played extremely well again today. Flag down. It appeared that the Broncos were early off the ball. Doriga with a little shove. It seems, interestingly, it's the Denver guys that are picking the extracurricular action at this point, because we don't know what's being said down there. But
false start, offense, number 88, 5-yard penalty. Repeat the down, 4th down.
Interesting. 16 years ago, last time the Broncos played at home with nothing at stake, and it was 30 years ago, almost to the day, that Raymond Berry caught a dozen passes in New York, and the Colts beat the Giants in overtime on Alan Amici score. And one of the greatest games, if not the most memorable game in NFL history. It wasn't to be so dramatic today for Berry and his Patriots. And we're almost to a point now where they ought to just call this thing off.
Somebody liable to get hurt. You see the officials throwing themselves in between those players. I know it's their job. But I tell you one thing, that's not a job I'd want. Those officials don't have on helmets. They don't have on shoulder pads.
There's still a lot of verbiage going on, and obvious challenging of one's manly integrity here.
One of my old teammates, Gary Lane, the side judge down there today, one of those involved. You see them trying to face off with the players. Nothing to be gained in this kind of emotional skirmish.
Here's Clarence Kay. Ooh, man.
Something said, obviously, by Lawrence McGrew to Kay on that particular situation, and Clarence Kay did not hesitate at all.
Boy, he got a solid right hand to the midsection. He knew not to go to the face mask.
About the only place you can hit. I'll tell you this, I watched and participated in a few of those fights, and with all those uniform protections on, it's kind of silly. Dan Reeves wants to know why somebody didn't get kicked out of the game. Well, Dan, we saw one of your guys throw a punch. Maybe it should have been Clarence Kay.
Been a candidate, wouldn't he? Patrick Boland, the Denver owner, who's already started to draw the plans for 1989.
It's more than just a review of Collier and his defense. It's a review of direction, a review of their scouting system, which has been very ineffective.
On Denver, number 88. I have personal foul on New England, number 26. I have personal foul on New England, number 38. Penalties are offset. It is New England's ball. 1st and 10.
That is silly.
That's a long list, isn't it?
That's almost silly. You know, you had to throw them out. Let's play the game. And this is in a season when this game typifying the integrity of the league. These situations, I think, could be handled better. I mean, the officials can only do what they're told to do.
Yeah,
Flutie will play
there. Yes, he will.
As they take over and downs at the 40-yard line.
He's done this before.
At Boston College, he gets it all the way to the end zone, where it's intercepted by Randy Robbins. And Flutie, as Robbins carries it out, hustles downfield and forces the fumble, but Robbins recovers. And meanwhile, away from the play, from elbows and forearms being thrown.
Got any question about Flutie's arm strength? That was a 65, 70-yard pass in the air. Well, there was a smile from Joe Collier.
And Flutie, wisely, everyone else just relaxed, figuring, well, it's over. And Robbins, of course, has the option to run it out. And Flutie was the first man downfield, swings around and bats it away. That's a pretty good effort. It's the kind of play, though, you better have eyes in the back of your head. You want to know where everyone is.
Show you what kind of competitor Flutie is. That's definite. Don Shinnick with an arm around
Here's a guy who could play. The Colts linebacker still leads the NFL. 37 interceptions as a linebacker. He was the roommate of Barry with the Colts. Well, the executive producer of NBC Sports is Michael Weissman. The coordinating producer of NBC's football, Ted Nathanson. Coordinating producer, NFL Live, John J. Filippelli. Today's game was produced by Kenneth Roy Edmondson, directed by Andy Rosenberg. NFL Live, produced by Ricky Diamond and Tom Roy. NFL Live, directed by Bucky Gunst. Technical directors Mike Strominski and Richard Sansevier. Joe Costanza and our crew in the booth, Brad Pearson, Merritt Cohen, Ray Friedman, Cliff Dodge. That's it. The season is over for Denver. They finish 8-8. Well, they've got 2 more seconds.
Well,
there's no timeouts. Well, there's a flag down.
Get the Denver Bronco players out of the locker room if they continue this game.
It can't end on a penalty if it's both sides that are guilty. And that would be the guess. New England will finish 9-7. Maybe will go on, but it will require
face mask on number 60
tomorrow.
On the defense. Fouled by the defense in the last 30 seconds. The game is over by rule.
So it was just the defense that fouled and the game declared over by the officials. The season is not over for Raymond Barry. It is, unless they get a lot of help. And for Dan Reeves, a chance to think about next year and the changes that need to be made before then.
21-10. Denver, for the moment, has spoiled the Patriots' chance for the wild card. We'll be back after this message.
Wrap the day.